I am super excited about low-code plugins. And I like to use the word super excited because Ben Vollmer called that out at the Resco conference about how he said Microsoft people always say super excited. So it became a joke. So every presentation we did after that, we always announced that we were super excited about what we were going to talk about.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power Platform Boost podcast, your timely source of Power Platform news and updates with your host, Ulrikke Akerbæk and Nick Doelman. Whoop, whoop in the house. Whoop, whoop. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm good. Hey, yeah, in our own houses. Yep. Doing awesome. Had a good weekend. I did change my tires. I did those myself. It was good.
You're so good.
To put them in the shed in my backyard, so its own tire hotel and all that.
I actually got a comment from a friend who says, I don't, because he doesn't listen to it just listen to the first 3 seconds to get the fun bit, and then he moves on to something else because it's not really, he doesn't understand what Power Platform is about. He just realized that it's a fun bit. And he was laughing so hard. He said, I think Nick could have helped you out with that kind of, with that car, the guy that changes the tires on the car is called in English, so like laughing about it. It's really fun.
The tire changer.
So you did that.
Yeah.
The tire changer. Exactly. Yeah. Sure. So you did that yourself, did you? Yeah. Such an inspiration, Nick. Always.
Sure. It's actually more out of like, because I can be impatient. So if I go to the place that does it, it's like, there's always a lineup. And it's funny because they advertise here about, no lineups, no appointments needed. Come change your tires. And there's always like a lineup of 20 cars there. And the guy comes out and said, yeah, it's going to be like 3 hours. Do you want to wait? Or no, we're not taking any more today. And then it's sort of like, so yeah, a few years ago, I got all the equipment and got all the wrenches. As I like buying tools, right? So it's like, yeah.
I think we ranted about this last week or the last time already. I don't think people need to hear this again. So yeah, no. That's true. Nope. No. And of course, when you do it, you pick the car up and then you just change the tire with the other hand, right? Because they're so strong. Yeah. So you don't really have to do the whole lifting thing and everything. Just pull it up and then change it. Yeah, exactly.
That's how it's
much
done,
easier
right?
for you.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone does it like that. So no worries. Right. So any news for the Power Platform this week, Nick?
I don't know. Did anything happen this week?
No, I don't think so. So yeah, let's just call it a day and then but actually we did pick up a couple of things. And to be fair, I think the first one on the list is actually not that new, but I want to talk about something first because it's been brought to my attention that Nick is into volunteer stuff and cloud for nonprofit, and everything that he does is about that. Is that a coincidence, or are you guys working on a nonprofit or a cloud for profit kind of project? Do you want to tell the people what we're actually doing and why all your videos suddenly is about volunteering and everything?
Well, yeah. So we are working on a project where we're building a Power Pages site specifically for volunteer, like onboarding and volunteer management. Now, I've done similar sites in the past, kind of like in membership management and a few other things. So I've done a volunteer portal before. So a lot of this stuff is kind of taking that experience, I guess you could say. Now, it's interesting because as we started going down this and working on the project team, exploring options there are accelerators out there. There's also something called the Microsoft Cloud for nonprofits. Of course, we've all heard of the Microsoft Cloud for healthcare, I think is well known. There's a few other Microsoft Clouds. So as much as sometimes when we approach a project, we got to start from ground up. This is a new industry. This is something that we may have not encountered before, or they have very unique requirements. And we would start to begin to design the data models and the structure and the processes and the flows. However, for something like not-for-profits, there are actually pre-built, both there's ISVs out there, there's also accelerators, there's the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare. And then we also see that there's been new announcements made for HR processes and what they call Power Platform Enterprise templates. So you don't necessarily have to, basically start from ground zero. You can start with some of these accelerators or some of these templates. There's both good and bad.
Yeah,
Sorry,
there is. And there's some things are not really what we, when we started working with this, we saw that there's kind of different versions. And so the accelerators, that was the first version of the what's now called the Cloud 4 XX, right? And those are not really supported anymore. They're supported, but they're not developed by Microsoft anymore because they've stopped evolving those accelerators, right?
Well, yeah, they exist on GitHub. But let's take, for example, the one we looked at, the not-for-profit accelerator. It exists on GitHub. You can still download all the assets. You can still load it up on your environments. However, it hasn't. If you look at the last time it was updated, it was 2020, which was 3 years ago. And from my understanding, this is something that there's no longer a team sort of really owning this or enhancing this. Now, the idea, if it goes up on GitHub, that means it's kind of open source, meaning the community can also contribute to it as well. But then we also understand there's Microsoft Cloud for not-for-profits, which is originally was where you can actually buy a SKU for it, and that will entitle you to support. However, you could still use this for free or no extra licensing costs if you kind of want to forego the support. But then you also need to actually sign up for it and prove that you're a not-for-profit organization. So there's a lot of different nuances and things a lot with these accelerators. Now, the good part is this can actually, a lot of that groundwork is done. A lot of them are compliant with particular industry standards. I know for the healthcare, Cloud for Healthcare, they tie into they call the FHIR standard and things like that. I know developers that are working on that particular industry template. So I guess it probably depends on the industry as well of who's using these templates and what kind of attention they're getting. So from our aspect is we're actually not going to be using those templates in terms of downloading them directly. We're going to take a lot of the same structure and the processes and extract and use those in our project. So they are definitely valuable, but also very cognizant of, hey, these may be, I don't want to call them abandoned, but we don't actually want to lock ourselves into kind of going down a road. So I think it's worth checking out some of these templates and these types of things. I guess it really, like everything, it depends.
Yeah, and it's a good thing for us. It actually has some sort of benefits because this is for a Norwegian company, and we had a really high, high debate about the glossary, what to call things, and I think you will find this in most industries. If you go into one of these companies, they don't call things the same thing over, across the company. Is this a volunteer? Is it a person? Is it a contact? Is it a contributor? The same thing has so many names across inside one organization from the different perspectives throughout the company. So just having one, and that is that common data model mindset, right? You have that one model that we can. So actually, this solved kind of a discussion that we had. We're going to use the data model that we find within the Microsoft non-for-profit cloud model, and we're going to use that data model and use that language across everything. And then what you want to translate it into then becomes more of a translation exercise, and the different areas across the different solutions can actually translate it into their own words if they need to. But then we kind of have that common data model. It solves a lot of issues actually for us as well, just being able to move ahead in the project, because then in more of a afterwards translating it into Norwegian kind of exercise instead of having to find all the words for everything in the glossary up front. So just purely from that perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense. And if you're going into a project, I think that's the point that we're making, trying to talk about it, is if you're going into a project where it is a cloud for nonprofit, or it's an HR, or it's something that already exists, that one of these clouds for something exists for, just spin that up and download that as a trial, just to see what it contains and the words that they're using and the systems, their apps that they've created, just to not start from scratch and just to utilize them work that has already been done. I think that makes it's a very good thing to try out. And what caught my eye with the Power for HR is that they're enterprise templates. So they're actually very detailed step-by-step tutorial instructions that you can follow as a non-coder, where you can download an app from App Store. It guides you through how to create a custom connector and how to set it up. It's very detailed step-by-step. I love that. So it's enabling everyone, so that actually working in HR, have very little technical knowledge, would be able to set this up just by following that step-by-step instructions. I really, really love that. It's enabling the citizen developer for sure. It really ties into that whole story from Microsoft's side. So just wanted to highlight that. And of course, links to everything is in the show notes.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, definitely check out those templates, because I think there's a lot of value, whether you actually end up using them in your real project or not. They're totally worth taking a look at, because you'll definitely get some inspiration, some ideas, and like every project, it depends. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah.
Other stuff. So there was a feature update for, as there is, I believe, every month. For it's kind of coming out in a monthly thing about the October 2023 feature update for Power Apps. A lot of cool stuff there. Copilot in Power Apps is now generally available. We've talked a lot about the Copilots in Power Apps. Low-code plugins, I want to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But I think I am super excited about low-code plugins. And I like to use the word super excited because Ben Vollmer called that out at the RESCO conference about how he said Microsoft people always say super excited. So it became a joke. We'd say every presentation we did after that, we always announced that we were super excited about what we were going to talk about. So, and then other thing about, so there's low code, there's parse JSON, and untyped objects are now GA. Of course, JSON is a format that used heavily in Power Apps and Power Automate, and some collaboration features in Canvas apps. So if you're working together on Canvas apps, like, it's interesting. We talked about the co-presence in Power Pages and about how you and I were working on a site a few weeks ago. And even though we said, okay, we're not going to work on this anymore. And then I see your little dots poke up and I'm working on it as well. So
yeah, I can't really hide from you anymore. You see that I'm in the solution working. Oh,
exactly.
I know. And this is the same way for Power Apps and Canvas apps now, that you can actually see the work that you're doing together real time in the studio. That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a few other things too, like, default environment routing that we talked about before and everything like that. So a lot of cool stuff. So definitely check out that link and see what's new in Power Apps for October.
Absolutely. And then just to mention that as well, there are some newsletters that we follow, Power Platform Weekly and Power Platform Dev Weekly, where we get a lot of our news. But another one popped up this week, and it's weird, low-code newsletter by Mike Guzovsky is in their 39th edition. It's called Microsoft No Code Low Code newsletter, and you're in this edition, and we didn't really know about it. So It's a LinkedIn newsletter. We just wanted to call that out. So and they had many of the same news items that the Power Platform Weekly did. But great work pulling something like that together. Takes a lot of effort, and if we all pull different news items like that together, then we just it's easier for everyone to keep up to date. So of course, links to that also in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I followed one of your videos. It's very funny when you go into your own YouTube channel to watch a video to learn something new, which I did. One of the latest videos that you posted about how to use Dataverse local plugin with Power Pages, and the scenario, of course, really ties in with something we've already talked about. You want to tell the people what it's about?
Yeah. So basically, of course, as people are knowing, the Dataverse low-code plugins are now being rolled out. They're in preview still, but the idea here is with plugins. We've been writing plugins for Dynamics CRM since like version 1 and version 3. They were called callouts then they became, in version 4, became actual plugins. In order to create a plugin, you need Visual Studio, like Professional Enterprise. You need to understand C# code. I used to be able to do it in VBNet. I'm not sure if you still can use VBNet or not, but most of the examples are in C#. And then you have to go through and you create your plugin, and it's a DLL, and then you have to use some tools to load that into your environment. And there's a certain amount of configuration. So this is the bread and butter for a lot of pro code developers, especially more on the Dynamics 365 side, and Power Platform developers, is creating plugins. I haven't written a plugin in a couple of years. I kind of call that in the video as well. I used to do it a lot more. And the last time I had to write a plugin, it had also been a long time. I actually spent probably way longer than I had to. Of course, I had to set up the environments. I had to figure out how I write a plugin again and the different frameworks. If you do want to write, if you're new to plugins, we did call this Thomas Sandsør, our friend. He wrote a whole series on CRM Keeper. He wrote has a whole series on, because he started from zero on how to create plugins. These are pro code plugins, so check those out. Now, what the Dataverse low code plugins will allow you to do, it allows you to write plugins using Power Effects. And you don't need to run Visual Studio. You basically go into an app called the Dataverse Accelerator app. Yes, this got installed automatically on everybody's environments. And then I know everybody's kind of like, oh, Microsoft keeps installing stuff without telling us, and it's going to use all my capacity and whatever. Okay, so just put your tears in a bucket and move on. And of course it did that little environment variable thing too, which, we talked about last time and what that was all about. But this time, this allows you to create both the automated plugins and the instant plugins. You use Power Effects, and then it basically does all that registration and everything for you. And then your plugin gets registered. It's going to run Power Effects. So in my use case, I had it going like a volunteer application. You put in an email address, it saves that record, and then of course triggers that plugin, checks to see if that email exists in the contact database. If it does, then it's going to update that application record. By updating that application record, if I'm in a multi-step form in my Power Pages site, it can use the condition action and evaluate the result of that field and then go in one branch or another branch. So really, it's all about using this new low-code plugin feature with multi-step forms in a Power Pages site. So beginning to move these pieces together, how you would kind of architect or any solution to achieve any feature. So this opens up, in my mind, for low-code makers who aren't comfortable or, to load Visual Studio. Now this gives them another avenue, another option, another tool to their toolkit to build out more complex business scenarios using Power Pages and plugins and all that kind of fun stuff.
And you say that, but even you struggled to get it to work, right? So even you had to rely on a friend to get it, to understand how to write that Power FX code to get it to do what you wanted it to do. And that's what, Power FX to me is just still
Power
not.
Power FX is still code.
It kind of is. And yes, I didn't get the Excel function things either, really. It's just, I understand JavaScript easier than PowerFX. It's just backwards to me. But I know some other developers will think it's their native language. Sure, if that's what your mind works that way, then perfect. But to me, it's still a bit of a threshold to get over to start doing that. So. Yeah,
absolutely.
And one of the things that I worked with on Power Pages projects in the past, where you've been able to. So then back then we triggered workflows, for instance, old school legacy workflows. I'm not sure if they're legacy, but they're old. By updating a field or something, then you would trigger on that update like we do now. Now, of course, we can trigger flows directly from Power Pages. That's all well and good and well, but that's still a background process, and you can't really fetch that, or you can now. You can fetch what the result is, but what we used to use plugins for was when we had to wait for that result to get back, and for actually the process on the Power Pages sites to stop before we could move forward. Now, can you give me, so the scenario that you used for this video it's all good and well, but can you give me, how do I know if I need to write a plugin or if I can solve something using Power Automate or a workflow, for instance? What is the key thing that tells me whether it's a plugin or something else?
Okay, so this thing, because from a classic workflow perspective, Classic workflows, we don't have the ability within there to do that querying and get that result back by searching the other table in the contact. So so it's more from not picking what you need, but more eliminating what won't work. Could I have done this using Power Automate? Yes, I could have probably. But then, as you know, with the new Power Automate Cloud Flows and Power Pages, we do need to have a custom interface, like an HTML form or something, to capture that particular value. And then we'd have to wait for the result, and then based on that result, do something. So that could have been done, but there would have been a level of complexity there. This way, so that eliminated that. Any other kind of asynchronous workflows, of course, because we want the response to be immediate. So, yes, I also probably could have used the Portal Web API as well. Here's the email address. Let's query the contacts using the Portal Web API, wait for a response back from that. Depending on the response, then kind of move forward, whether we're going to accept the full volunteer or redirect the user. So yes, that could have worked, but then that would have also involved a lot of different code as well. And then with the plugin now allows what I think it's probably one of the better solutions is we can use the regular multi-step process component pretty much out of the box. There's no special JavaScript built in there. There's no special code. On the back end, on the Dataverse side, that's where we have the plugin. Now, yes, Power Effects it's still code. You still have to have your head wrapped around it. Yes, I needed to actually ask for help. But this also, I don't need to still load Visual Studio. It's one snippet of code. It's still kind of manageable. It will still transport with my solution. I don't have to do all this external stuff. So really, at the end, as of course we always say, it depends. So in this case, it was purely, I think, out of all the options, this is probably one of the better options to achieve this. So like I said, it's not so much of picking something, it's more a process of eliminating everything else.
Right. Yeah, well, that makes it a little easier for us others who doesn't really know how to, because I don't come from a pro code kind of plugin world. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And of course, it's a bit, it's nice to see that you actually struggle with something from time to time as well.
Well, I think we all do. Like, I don't know everything, and sometimes, but it's not always about not knowing. It's knowing where to go for help. And in this case, I kind of like, okay, where do I go? Who do I know knows Power Effects? And I thought and that's nice. And Power Effects is on GitHub because they want it to be open source. So I posted the question there, and then within a day, I got a response back. And that was super helpful. But they conceded that the documentation wasn't great on that particular point. So of course, hopefully that will help. And by asking the question, this will hopefully help improve it or answer the question for someone else down the line. So never be afraid to ask questions. And that goes to anybody because it's going to help you, but it's probably going to help a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, that's true. And that's a very good point. As we talked about last episode as well, to get help from your friends, that's kind of what we do. And Elaiza, just to follow up on someone that actually does what she says she's going to do, Elaiza Benitez at Microsoft Power Platform Conference back in a month ago, one of her sessions at the Microsoft Power Platform Conference was about building business process flows. And she has a really neat hacks when she, how to, for instance, skip a step or kind of some things that I didn't realize you could do with business process flows. And she said in her session that she would follow this up with a video and a blog post. And now she has. So there's both a video and blog post. And with, Elaiza, she's awesome. I just love her content. I feel so safe and secure when I go through because it's so step by step and it's easy to understand. And I love how she writes and explains things. So really, if you're into business process flows, your guide to building business process flows like an expert, follow Elaiza's content. And of course, links in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
Any other things you wanted to mention this week?
We have a ton of stuff and we're not going to get it through it all. I do want to actually call it, Lisa Crosby did a YouTube video. And of course, if you've not a subscriber to Lisa's, I think everybody is because she has a ton of subscribers. But if you happen to still not hit that subscribe button, do that because her content is amazing. A lot of good stuff. Now, she talked about, she said, you can't get the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Try this instead. So what she's referring to, of course, there's a lot of big hoopla about how the Microsoft 365 Copilot was released. However, it was only available to organizations that had 300 seats or more. I went and looked in my own tenant. I have basically 2 seats in my tenant, so I don't have access to get the Microsoft 365 Copilot. And a lot of the businesses, a lot of the companies we work with, they're small, medium companies. They don't have those 300 seats. And then even if you have those 300 seats, then the enterprise there's more licensing involved with that. And this is for the Microsoft 365 Copilot. So what she went through, she talked a lot about Bing Chat Enterprise and using a lot of these other tools essentially to achieve the same results that what you would get with Microsoft 365. Of course, there's a couple extra steps you need to take, but just be aware that there's a lot of these AI tools out there and available at either no cost or very low cost. And I use Bing Chat a lot. I use Chat GTP a lot. Started to play along with building your own GPTs as well, which is kind of mind blowing. I think we'll talk about that in future episodes, especially as it relates to the Power Platform. So yeah, definitely check out Lisa's video on that. It's really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And it ties into something else, because I listened to the low code approach, another podcast about low code from Microsoft, where they talked about Power Virtual Agents and how now with Copilot, how Power Virtual Agents suddenly became very more actual, right? So this suddenly has a much more profound space where you can go in and create a chatbot in just 2-3 clicks and have it answer specific questions about the specific website that you put it on, or you can use it for internal things, and you can have it answer questions on your content directly. There's an episode, I think it's episode 23. We'll find the link and put it in the show notes with Jack Robotham from Microsoft, which really, if you're into this kind of thing, then this is something to look into. Because sure, if you don't get that big Copilot for your whole tenant because you don't have enough seats, maybe it's enough for you to create a Power Virtual Agent bot that can answer and generate. It's a generative AI bot that will answer you in natural language based on the data set that you train it to answer questions for. So maybe that's something you can look into if that's what you need.
Right. Yeah, that's really cool. There's just so much happening. There was an OpenAI conference last week that had a lot of announcements, and I'm just still trying to catch up on all of this. And of course, it's Microsoft Ignite this week, so expect another pile of new. And as much as I've already seen some tweets out there about if you're watching Ignite and you hear the word Copilot, take a drink. Those games are already starting, but. We are living in a very, very interesting time. We're going to pinpoint 2023 is when everything changed again. And things changed as names. I have seen some posts also in social media that we're not gonna cite them directly, but I know that there's name changes coming, and something popped up in this environment or that environment, and there are changes for sure coming. So yes, let's just leave it at that, I think. So
and also,
I think,
yeah.
Go ahead. No, you're go.
Sorry. Yeah, just wanted to make sure that we are going in or coming in on time here. Just to start to wrap this up, you were renewed as a Microsoft certified trainer. That's great. Congratulations! And yes, you were on Victor Dante's thing live, as he usually does. It just his just social media and Victor Dante's, that's just a match made in heaven. He's so good on doing the live stream things and everything. What did you do with Victor this time?
Oh, it was funny. So it was so random. Like, it was last Monday, and then I'm just plugging away, and then my phone beeps, and I look, and it's Victor saying, "Hey, I'm going to do a live LinkedIn in like half an hour. Do you want to join?" And they're like, "Holy crap." Like, okay, sure. And like, yeah, me, put a microphone in front of my face. We're going to talk about Power Pages learning resources, and that's what we talked about. And yeah, we had a good half-hour conversation. It was live. We had a few people following along. Of course, Franco was there in the chat, helping us out, providing us some links and some information. So believe that live stream is still on LinkedIn, so you can check that out. So where Victor and I talk about all the resources to help you get ramped up in Power Pages. If you're starting from, like, Victor's all about the zero to hero. Of course, your content, Ulrikke, I basically, in terms of all the stuff that you do as well, very helpful to people starting out. So we shouted out for you as well, and plus a whole bunch of others. So definitely check that out. And then going back the MCT thing, yes, I've renewed my MCT. You're going to get yours too, right? I'm going to walk you through it because I think you would definitely qualify to be an MCT. That's a Microsoft certified trainer. So we'll talk about that offline.
Right. All right. Let's do it. Let's see.
Yeah,
I didn't really have the time to go through the help me out. What is it called? The new thing that you did last week. The applied skill thing. I've had it in my calendar the whole week. I'm like, I'm going to get through it today. I'm going to get through it. And then sure enough, this is 2 weeks ago that you did yours, and I still haven't managed to get through mine. I know it's an hour of my time, but I just swamped. So one of these days I'll get both Microsoft Certified Trainer and I'll get that Applied Skill Challenge thing under wraps. And also just wanted to shout out, if you follow, let me rephrase that. You should follow everyone that you see on LinkedIn that does content on Power Platform in general. I just picked up from Jag Jabal, which is someone that I'm connected to on LinkedIn. Just shared that Microsoft Fabric now has a direct link to and from Dataverse. It's in preview. It's a way to just visualize or connect your Dataverse tables to OneLake from Dataverse side. So you just simply a screenshot showing that you can select the table, just the 3 dots, and then you go export and you go link to Microsoft Fabric preview, and it will be made available through OneLake for you to play in within Fabric or Power BI or something. And just small pieces like that will just throughout the week just connect you to whatever is new. And I think I love LinkedIn for that. Just to scroll through in the morning just gets me ramped up on all the new things. So great work.
Yeah, awesome. I checked it out. It's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I don't even work with Power BI, so.
Me neither. Not much.
Oh, cool. There you go.
Do we want to talk about the Boost Quest?
No. Let's wrap it up.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Time cop in the house.
Yeah, it's supposed to be you, but,
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. Well, thanks again for listening. If you like this episode and you're still here, and we're just a little bit over 30 minutes, so not too bad this week. Definitely let us know. Share this with your colleagues. Let them know about the Power Platform Boost podcast. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, download our episodes, do all that fun stuff. Or you could even buy us a beer or buy us a coffee. So that way we can keep this podcast going. So thanks again for everybody's participation. Look forward to hearing any feedback on this episode, and you can definitely reach out to us. I know we don't tell this often, but we do have an email address, hello@powerplatformboost.com. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach both of us on social media, the regular channels as well. So thanks for listening, and talk to you in 2 weeks, which will be the end of November. Normally we have the dates.
It's right there, November 29th.
November 29th. All right.
Yes.
Talk to you then.
Catch you all then. Bye-bye.